Reditt comments. Have any teachers, professors, or teaching assistants here ever been approached by a student who tried, or even succeeded, in trading favors for better grades? Please subscribe to support the channel. Also feel free to join the Discord and talk to me there. Links below. I went back to grad school after working for a while, so my first semester tarring for an entry-level math class, I was well over the age of 30. I had a freshman girl, come to office hours and start talking about how much she needed the class to get into her major and how hard it was, and on and on and on. She wound up by saying how she would do absolutely anything to pass, and on that word she leaned forward and tugged the front of her already rather low-cut shirt down enough to expose a pair of, I must admit, rather fetching bazungas that looked quite startled to be suddenly displayed to the world. And I laughed in her face, deep belly laughs that I'm sure most of the hall heard. It was so absurd, and so I've seen this in a porno, it'll totally work, that I couldn't help myself. Whining I was getting used to, but she was so young that I totally couldn't think of her in that way, and to have her just whip them out like that was so completely absurd that it literally doubled me over with laughter. Nothing much happened after that. She rushed out while I was still laughing, and I ended office hours early and went and told the undergraduate advisor and the department chair what had happened. I ended up having to write and sign a letter explaining what had happened as a sire sort of thing, and nothing else came from it. I must have gotten a reputation, since that was the first and last time anyone ever tried that. Throwaway account. I was at TAR for entry-level biology classes and 23 at the time. I worked 3 large classes ranging from 150 to 200 students. About 3/4s of the way through the semester, I was approached by a sorority girl, we'll call her Alice, in my second period class. She seemed innocent enough, inviting me to some Vegas night they were having at her sorority house. I said sure, and she said she'd see me there. I show up, and the place is packed, and there are setups of everywhere, poker, blackjack, roulette. They went all out. Alice was at the door when I showed up, and gave me a big pile of chips. I found out after the fact that there was a $10 cover I didn't pay. I went over and started playing blackjack. Didn't really care how I did, just having a good time. After about 10 minutes Alec came and watched me play. She at first was standing behind me, giving me word of encouragement. Within a few minutes, she was sitting next to me and giving me a very strong drink. I kept playing throughout the night and she stayed there, only leaving to refill my glass. As the night wound down and people started to file out, I was quite drunk. Alice said to me, I was wondering if you could help me with a couple of things for class. Being drunk, I said sure, and she led me up to her room. Once inside, she closed the door behind us. She said, I'm failing, and I have to pass. I'll make this simple. I'll give you a blow BJ for a B and doof you for an A. I said nothing. I think mainly cause I was floored with the offer. She took this as me being not interested and quickly stripped of her shirt. Please, she said, anything, but I can't fail. I have no idea where my bravado came from, but I said honey, you'll have to give me the greatest night of bleep of my life for an A. She got an A. I had a student that would show up to every class early and eager to be there. One day I took the class on a field trip and offered to go to another museum with them, and she was the only one that went with me. She hit on me on the train ride there, told me how much she loved me, and moved in on me. Awkward. When I told her that I couldn't do that for ethical reasons, she told me that she had cancer and had just finished chemo. Double awkward points for pity. I learned later that she told her classmates not to go on the field trip so she could ask me on a date. The next semester she took my next class and gave me a very expensive book that I had often talked about in class. After a while she no longer showed up to classes early or even at all. I think it's because one of her classmates saw me on a gay dating site. I saw her a couple years later while I was out on a date with my boyfriend at the time. Triple awkward. That's a whole lot of awkward for one girl to take. A little off topic, but a friend from grad school relates this story about his history prof uncle. He discovers a paper turned in with a $100 bill clipped to it and a note reading $1 a point. He graded the paper an F and returned $50 in change. Not sure about its accuracy, but it amuses me. Thanks for letting me briefly derail the thread. I can't believe you tried to bribe me with $100. I make good pay. Do you think I need $80? Furthermore, is $65 all this class means to you? You can have your $50 back. Happened once. Working as its staff for the CS/math department at a small university, I was recruited to be a TA for the programming labs. One of the girls in a class I was helping with got flirtatious, and despite my better judgment, I was 24 and she was 18, I got into a relationship with her. This lasted for a couple of months until the end of the semester, when she finally asked if I could help her with her grades. When I told her that I had nothing to do with the grades in the class, she ended things. I should probably be thankful she didn't try to ruin my job, but in any case, lesson learned. Wow, she really tried for the long con, didn't she? I was on the other side of this equation about a year ago, sort of. I was 20 at the time, he was 35. I'd had a big crush on this creative writing professor of mine, and although he never explicitly said anything suggesting that he wanted to sleep with me, there was a lot of flirting in / after class and via email. About 2 months before the semester ended, I went to a poetry reading hosted by the CW department, and he was there. I offered him a beer and we ended up spending almost the entire time talking. At some point, 3 beers in, it was decided that the whole group was going to go to a bar around the corner. Again, we sat next to each other and more or less kept to ourselves. Before I really knew what was happening, he was kissing me in front of half of the CW department, and then all of a sudden I was in his car and we were going home together. Needless to say, he was horrified in the morning, and the next class was super awkward. About a week later we met at a coffee shop, and he said that he wouldn't mind an encore performance as long as we could be discreet and as long as I knew he wasn't going to change my grade. I told him I didn't need to sleep with him to get an A in his class, and we've been together ever since. We are getting married next summer. One of my friends became a computer science TA at my university and was assigned to teaching freshmen computer literacy. Now he wasn't your usual Comp C student, in that he was very good looking. He could have easily been a male model and kinda had that Brad Pitt vibe. So he had these little freshman girls crushing on him, and he ate it up. And yes, he slept with several of them. He almost got in trouble for it because some students complained that he was showing favoritism, so he had to be a little more low-key after that, but the affairs continued. He eventually got his PhD and actually helped start one of the more successful dotcoms of the last several years, so now he's rich, smart, and good looking. If he wasn't my friend I would hate him. A professor of mine told a great story about a friend of his teaching organic chemistry. A girl came into his office wearing skimpy clothes saying she'd do anything for an A. The professor then suggested she do all the suggested problems before the test. She insisted that she'd be willing to do anything though, so he told her to instead do all of the problems in the book. She pressed once more, and the professor handed her a stack of textbooks from his collection and suggested she do all of those problems as well. When the girl finally said what she meant was she would have sex with him, he said he was happily married and asked her to return the textbooks after the final lol. I'm a school science teacher. It was never for grades, but my first year teaching especially I had a problem with male students hitting on me. Boldly, overtly doing so, in front of the entire class at times. I was only 24 and was regularly mistaken for a student by other faculty. I quit wearing makeup. I switched out pants for long loose skirts, since my backside is one of my nicer features. I got good with sarcastic shutdowns. Eventually, I gained a reputation for being a ball breaker. 5 years later, and it's become a rare problem indeed. I'm still frequently offered money for grades. I've been offered anywhere from $20 for regular assignments to a few hundred for an A or passing grade. I typically shut it down by explaining that any grade tampering will cost my annual salary, so that after I get fired I can have enough to live on while I find a new career. It's become such a running joke I even posted it on my bulletin board one year. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to support the channel. Also feel free to join the Discord and talk to me there. Links below.